All right. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Clubhouse Picks, brought to you by Godzilla Wins. I'm your host, Jack Fredericks, editor of Godzilla Wins, where you can find all of your sports picks and predictions on everything from the NBA to the UFC. Just go to GodzillaWins.com and you can find all of the best sports writing there. Clubhouse Picks, our podcast, is your go-to podcast for PGA predictions, tournament preview, and salty picks for the veteran golf fan. It is a lovely Tuesday evening in Mississippi on April 25th, and we're here to give you our picks and predictions for the Mexico Open in Vedanta. I'm here with my co-host, Nate Perry, the greatest handicapping caddy west of the Rockies. Check him out at Godzilla Wins and at Nate Perry Writes, in Perry Writes on Twitter. Welcome, Nate. Glad to see you.
Yeah, happy to be here for another podcast.
That's right. Another podcast. We're back, just the two of us. We've got some guests coming up for you guys in a couple weeks. We'll announce those on socials. We're excited to have some more guests. We were excited to have Nate with us last week, our guest from We Know Fantasy. He's got his stuff up if you want to go to We Know Fantasy. Yeah, he's terrific. You can go to WeKnowFantasy.com and find his picks for the Mexico Open as well. So we're talking Mexico Open, Nate. I want to start actually with something a little different. Usually we do the course preview. We'll get to that in a minute. The field. Let's start with the field.
Okay.
Yeah. Not great.
It's bad. This is not a strong field. I mean, it's just like it's a confluence of a lot of things kind of that are conspiring to make this a bad field, right? I mean, it's kind of a sandwich spot. It's in between, it's like not long after the Masters. A lot of guys went to the RBC the week after the Masters because it was a designated event. Then we have the Zurich Classic. That's fun. That gets a little bit of a stronger field. And then we get the Wells Fargo next week, which will be a stronger field. But this week, Mexico Open, not a strong field. It's basically Jon Rahm and Tony Finau are the only players in the top 50 in the world golf rankings to make the trip south of the border. Jon Rahm is defending his title. It was his lone victory last year in 2022. Obviously, he's already won 4 times this year, so that down year means nothing now. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty bleak. I mean, it's 2 guys in the top 50. I think it's 8 guys in the top 100 in the world. 3 guys in the top 20 in the FedEx Cup standings. So a lot of guys just skip this trip to Mexico. So the field is relatively weak. It's more or less 2 world-class players and then a bunch of sort of young up-and-comers, journeymen, guys playing on, career earnings exemptions, stuff like that.
It's a funny field for us because we love journeymen and up-and-comers.
We do. Yeah, I mean, like, I love this field. I mean, this feels like our wheelhouse in a lot of ways. Like looking at this field, I'm like, oh my God, yes. But it's tough. And there's a lot of value because Jon Rahm has just depressed everything so much that it's the odds get really weird really fast after you get past Jon Rahm and Tony Finau, who are both at single-digit odds.
Yeah, they do get weird fast. And you can actually find some really interesting value in some of the other guys. We'll talk about Jon Rahm in a minute. We're going to have to talk about him. We can't avoid it. But first, before we do that, just Nate, tell us about the resort course here, #resort course, at the Vedanta. What do you need to be successful? What kind of golfers have won this tournament in the past? What should we just look for overall when it comes to the Mexico Open?
Yeah, so Vallarta Vedanta, it's a Greg Norman design. It's pretty typical of what Greg Norman does. Greg Norman was known throughout his career as being a really strong driver of the golf ball. And most of his courses sort of tend to favor guys who are really good drivers of the golf ball. It tends to sort of encourage guys to hit the big stick. A little bit of a change in pace from, what we saw at the RBC or whatever, where guys are sort of laying up a lot. Even the Zurich, they're kind of laying up a lot. This won't be that. This will be guys just bombing away. Really wide landing areas. No real challenging penal rough to speak of. Some bunkers, quite a few bunkers, some water, but nothing that's insane. So it's pretty much just a straight up resort course. I mean, resort courses aren't supposed to be beating tourists up. They're supposed to provide a decent little challenge for a good player, but they're not. But they're also playable for sort of a high handicapper. So that's what you're getting here. In terms of people that win here, last year was the first time they played this course. So last year was the first time any of us had really seen it. There had been some various iterations of the Mexico Open that were sponsored by Euro Tour, some other sort of Central America tours. But those had all been played at different courses. They played some in Tijuana, they played some other places. So this was the first time that we saw it last year. And more or less, when you looked at the top of the leaderboard, I think in the top 15, I think 9 of the guys were top 10 in strokes gained off the tee. So off the tee stuff looks like it's sort of the most important indicative stat. I mean, obviously, there's more that goes into it than just like bombing it off the tee, but it certainly seems like a course where if you're gaining strokes off the tee, you're going to be in good shape here. One, because everyone's going to be hitting driver a lot, like we just said. The second thing is this course is pretty long. I mean, it's probably going to stretch out to 7,500 yards, and it's only a par 71. So it's quite long. It's not overwhelmingly so. Like these guys are tour players and they're playing at sea level, in pretty warm weather. So it's not like ridiculous, but I mean, it's definitely, a pretty like long golf course.
It is a long golf course, and off the tee is really important. If you look at the stats from last year, Rahm won, he posted 17 under. A lot of times in those longer courses, you can, because if you're good off the driver, you can pick up so much yardage. It means that you can post those low scores. Plus 1.39 for him off the tee. That was second. His approach, and this is, we're talking Rahm. I mean, Lord, he's down there, he's way down there. So when you're talking approach, yeah, he's, maybe top 40 or 50 in approach. So it's not a course where you have to be that good on approach. He putted fairly well, but not great. I mean, it was really just off the tee stuff and tee to green, which of course is always important, but that off the tee stuff is really important. So you're looking for, I think we're all looking for bombers, and I don't know. It's not even fun to really say that, because you could pretty much read anywhere on the internet and they're going to be saying the same thing. But that's because it's because we have a small data sample. So we can't say like, oh, well, in 2017, actually, so-and-so won and they're really good with their irons. But it is a bomber course. Finau might be the one guy. I mean, he hits pretty well off the tee, but his game is always strong. But Finau is a top 50 player. The rest of these guys are not really. So we have to be kind of careful how we characterize Finau in that.
Yeah. I mean, he's like way better than like everyone else in most ball striking stats, but like he's also an elite player, so
yeah,
there's that. Like, John Rahm stats versus everyone else in this are just silly, so
yeah, it's actually kind of scary, to be honest with you. To be quite frank. Two things. One, what's the grass? Do you know?
Past Palom. Past Palom.
Okay.
Past Palom's pretty common for these resort courses. They played Past Palom is also at Corrales, which is probably the closest comp to this course that I could think of and sort of find. Both courses are Past Palom. Both are pretty long. Both are pretty generous off the tee in terms of landing area for drivers. Resort courses. So not unusual. Past Palom is pretty common at these coastal courses because you can water it with brackish water and it won't kill the grass. So a lot of places tend to use this. The only real thing about it is the greens are probably going to be a lot slower. Past Palom, you can't cut down as much, so the greens are usually a little bit slower, and the grass is like stickier, so the ball doesn't roll as much, which can be sort of a double-edged sword. It's not going to like bounce into a bunch of weird trouble, but it's also like probably not going to go quite as far, carry distance more than rolling out.
Sure, yeah, double-edged sword. I've definitely hit a golf ball that I've thought, that took a weird bounce. Now I'm in the rough, but I don't know. I certainly haven't hit that many where it's like, oh, rolled an extra 75 yards. Good for me. That's not going to happen this week. That's for sure. So one of the things that I want to kind of talk about when we talk about betting this type of tournament is the market, like without John Rahm. So there, a lot of these places you can go, and you can't do this in Nevada, but in a lot of other places you can go and you can say, okay, I want to bet Gary Woodland without John Rahm. And basically what that means is if John Rahm's not in the tournament and Gary Woodland wins, you win. So John Rahm wins and Gary Woodland comes in second, you win. Is there any, I know you're not a guy who does that very often. Is there any wisdom in that this week when you have a heavy favorite, or is this still just something where we need to we're just looking at outrights?
Like talking about something like the field versus John Rahm.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know like how to like I don't even know how you price something like that. I mean, like, so John Rahm's plus 260 in the betting market right now. So you figure like him versus the feet. I mean, I don't know. What do you just make him like plus 400 and like, the field minus 250 or something? Like, I don't even know what you do for something like that. Like yeah. I haven't seen anything online. I've kind of like been looking around to see if there's like a Rahm versus the field prop somewhere, but I haven't been able to find it. And I think about gambling a lot. And DraftKings thinks about it even more than me. So if DraftKings hasn't figured out how to price it, no shame in me not knowing how to price it really either, I guess.
Well, and DraftKings they'll do stuff like, so they'll do the field versus Rahm, and I'll see if I can find it a little bit later. They'll do
when I'm trying to, I guess I'm like interested to see when like the tournament matchups get released, because it's going to be like Rahm versus just, one other person. And that's going to be when it's like, Rahm versus, whatever.
You want to know,
like,
so do you want the round 3 balls or the tournament matchups?
See tournament matchups. I'm pulling it up.
Hold on. I'll tell you.
John Rahm's minus 250 against Tony Finau, which is just insane. That's just insanity.
Yeah, it is.
Like, Tony Finau's like an elite golfer.
Right. Maybe just take the plus 190.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to. Like, I mean,
1.
This market is like so ridiculous. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, it's still golf, right? And like, I mean, Rahm's down there because it's like the right thing to do. He wants to defend his title or whatever, and he's really interested in growing the game worldwide. They were talking to him earlier in the week, and he was talking about like, Seve did so much to grow the game internationally, and I'm trying to do the same. Blah blah blah. And that's great, but I mean, how many golf tournaments is just going to show up locked in? I mean, he wasn't that locked in at RBC. I don't know if he's, this is probably like a little bit of a vacation for the family after he spent all last week celebrating finally after the Masters.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure he's going to be pretty locked in.
He always is, unfortunately.
Yeah, he really is. So we're going to talk about our favorites here in a minute. But before we do that, we have got to thank one of our most important sponsors. You can see my shirt right here. Very happy to be partnering with Beard Vet. Listen up, Patriots. Are you tired of drinking coffee from mega corporations that don't give a rip about you? Then put down that cup of regret and grab yourself some Beard Vet coffee. It's darn good coffee from a company that is veteran founded, veteran focused, and beard operated. And let's be real, if you're not drinking Beard Vet coffee, you might as well be sipping on a cup of burnt soy and tears. So join the ranks of the unapologetic. Go to beardvet.com. That's beardvet.com and taste the freedom. We love Beard Vet. Go grab some of their coffee and their merch. I love this shirt. Just telling Nate about that before the show. It fits really well. It's nice and comfortable, which I really enjoy. Okay, Nate, talked about Rahm a little bit. So we're doing what's in our bag as we always do. We've got our driver. This is our heavy favorites. I would probably say, as far as drivers go, Wyndham Clark plus 1,600, Finau plus 800, Rahm plus 260 as outright winners. Who do you have as your driver?
I mean, it's got to be Rahm, right? I mean, as much as like we like hate it, like I'm not taking 8-1 on Finau against this field and John Rahm. And Wyndham Clark's never won a golf tournament. So like and John Rahm's all John Rahm has done is won like 4 times on tour.
All
He
the
leads
tournaments.
he's basically like elite at everything. All his stats are ridiculous. I mean, if you're just pulling it up, I mean, he's first in par 3 scoring. He's top 3 in par 5 scoring and par 4 scoring. He leads the tour in adjusted scoring. He leads in the FedEx. He's won 4 times, just coming off a Masters victory. He's the defending champion here. Like, what else is there than he's and he's the number 1 player in the world, and he's playing like it. Like, this isn't like a fluke, like world golf ranking, like just some guy just sort of popping up because they figured out the algorithm. Like, John Rahm is legitimately the best player in the world. It's not like an argument right now.
Absolutely.
So if you're looking at like sort of like low odds, obviously I'm not betting on John Rahm at plus 260, but I'm also not, in a hurry to bet on Wyndham Clark to win his first golf tournament here at 16-1, or Tony Finau at 8-1. Like, that's also like, where's the value there?
A lot of people like Tony Finau this week, though.
I know, but
I see it everywhere.
I know, but I think that's just because like John Rahm's just like the low hanging fruit. It's like, well, you can't bet someone at 260, and I'm not saying you should, but I'm just saying, like, of those 3 guys, like, I guess it's Rahm. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just find it hard to make it like a compelling argument for Finau at 8-1 having value versus, Rahm, anywhere between plus 250 and plus 300, depending on where you're betting it, being like, somehow like not value. I don't get that argument.
Finau hasn't won on tour this year, and he is playing good. I mean, he's always playing.
No,
well.
And he won a couple of times, late last year. So I mean,
true.
The game is there. And he sort of shed that sort of thing where it was like, oh, Tony Finau can't close, but
yeah,
the results
8-1 is tough.
Been jumping off the page either. I mean, 31st at Heritage, tied for 26 of the Masters. He's been around, but he's not like really threatened. He hasn't had a top 10 since January. So, he
hasn't.
Electric.
No, it's not. He's usually sits at 22-1. I mean, pretty much in any tournament, he's around 22-1. And even I have a hard time picking him at 22-1 because he's just not delivering right now. He's not closing it out, and 8-1, like, that's Scotty Scheffler territory. And I don't like taking Scotty at 8-1. So I definitely don't want to take Tony Finau at 8-1 when I can't even talk myself into a Rory at plus 850. It's just bad. Like, it's bad.
You're not
price.
betting like Scotty at the Masters at like 10-1. Then like, why are you betting Tony Finau in this field at 8-1 like that?
Right. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so you're going with Rahm.
I guess. I mean, just by default.
Yeah, I got someone. I got someone a little bit different. I'm not going with Rahm. We're talking heavy favorites. My boy Wyndham Clark.
Okay.
He's a heavy favorite. I mean, I've been on the Wyndham Clark train all year long, and he's done nothing but just play incredible golf. Wyndham Clark is going to win a tournament this year, and I'm going to be there when it happens. It's a guarantee. Okay, yes. Has he won on tour before? No. But he can. He's good enough. He total strokes gained 28th. Okay, strokes off the tee 58th. So that's kind of the number we're looking at. That's not horrible. It's especially for this field. You're other than Rahm and Finau, you're not going to find a lot of guys who are way into the off the tee. Although my next one is kind of low there. Driving distance 11th. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I use that one when I want to, and then when I don't want to, I don't use it because it's not like that interesting of a step. I mean, like, okay, so you hit the ball far. Well, what happens when you hit it in the ocean? So, I mean, it's not a strokes gained stat, but he's 11th there. The play has been so good. 3rd at the Zurich, teamed up with who do you team up? Harris English? Bo Show. That's right. Bo Hostler. Who is also trending upward, I think, probably not as fairly as Wyndham Clark, but he's up there with some short odds this week. RBC tied for 29th, Corrales 6th, Valspar 5th. That's like 3 top 10 finishes in those tournaments. I think, I mean, Corrales may have been February, but it's only been a couple months.
Yeah.
He's just playing incredible golf. Played here last year, so that is important to me. Tied for 67th last year. Problem here, he struggled here. Nothing in the plus, but his game wasn't like it is now. So I'm not that worried about the play here last year. I also, Greg Norman, we talked about this with Valero, and I know Valero is kind of designed to be a tune-up course where they can go low, but Norman is not Pete Dye, and you can shoot low here. And I don't think that just because you didn't have success one year means that you won't have success the next year. So now 16-1, and it's not a good price for Wyndham Clark. He's never won a tournament. That's like hard to swallow, but we're talking about favorites, and I like the longest of the favorite, but I've liked him all year long, and I just feel like everybody's catching up with me, and I'm never going to let it die when he wins. I mean, I'm going to let everybody know that I've been on the Wyndham Clark train since the beginning, and he's going to win a tournament because he's playing incredible golf. All he has to do is play well on Sunday in one of these tournaments, and this is a tournament where if Rahm isn't ahead by 900 strokes, there's not a lot of closers here. It's just Rahm.
Well, and to sort of talk about that briefly, Jon Rahm, everyone talked about how Jon Rahm went wire to wire last year, but he was tied for the lead going into the 14th hole, or like 12th or 14th hole range in the final round. I mean, he like coughed up a little bit of a lead and sort of had to rally and make some birdies coming in to be able to hold some people off. So the idea that Rahm just came here, like this narrative that I've sort of seen, which is like Jon Rahm won here, and he went wire to wire, so it was dominant, wasn't necessarily true even. I mean, like he was kind of in a fight there at the end.
Yeah, he was. And I don't know. I mean, these guys, like if Rahm and Scotty are going to continue to win golf tournaments, then like we can just all pack it up. So to me, it's like, I'm just going to pick guys who aren't named them. Not that I love watching them play and I love when they win, but I'm also here to try to find some value. And even at plus 1600, I still feel like Wyndham Clark has some value as a heavy favorite. And I love talking about how he's a favorite. I just love it, because it's not going to be something that happens very often.
The third betting choice.
Yeah,
he might not be the third betting choice in a Corn Ferry event. Like, I mean, like now, but like last year, he would have been like probably like sixth.
No, I'm not even sure his friends are taking him at 16-1.
No.
So yeah, but hey, we'll see. There's a little bit more value, I think, down the list here. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about our iron. But first, Nate, we want to thank our partners at Birch Gold. Inflation has consequences. As the Fed raises interest rates to combat out of control government spending, long-term bonds have diminished in value, crippling banks. Depositors are holding their breath and investors are bailing on bank stocks. Diversification has never been more important. The recent surge in gold prices is directly tied to the extreme market volatility right now. This is why gold has historically been a great hedge against the stock market and against inflation. Now would be a great time to diversify into gold with Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. That's exactly what you need to be doing. You need to text Godzilla. That's Godzilla to 989-898. That's 989-898. They'll help you convert your existing IRA or 401k that's tied to the volatile market into an IRA in gold and silver. Text Godzilla to 989-898 to claim your free info kit on gold today. That's Godzilla 989-898. With an A+ rating for the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold is who you can trust to protect your future. Godzilla 989-898 today. Time for the irons here, Nate.
Yeah.
These are our guys who just are our lovely guys. To steal a Greg Hirsch from Succession line here. We did that a couple weeks ago as well. But these are our guys who they're reliable. And maybe they've won on tour before, maybe they haven't, but they're playing good golf right now. And even if they're not winning for us, they're always in the hunt. I got one I'm excited about, but he's a short price and he's kind of, I don't know. It's not a sexy pick. Everybody else is on it. So why don't you go first? Maybe you have something more interesting and then I'll talk.
Yeah, so I think that we might be on the same one for our irons, but I'm actually going to slide him into my bet regret. He's a shorter price. He's definitely priced like an iron, but I'm just going to put him in bet regret just because the whole world's been on him. But I'll talk about that in a second. So I guess my iron then, looking at who I've bet so far and looking at this hilarious list of long shots, all of my lovely guys that I love betting at resort courses. Aaron Rai. I mean, and Aaron Rai's like not even really like a resort course guy. Like he played pretty well last week. He was he finished in a tie for 13th at the Zurich. You know, I'm looking at his numbers. His numbers were good. He gained strokes, you know, approach around the greens and off the tee, which is pretty good for him. He only lost 0.01 stroke putting, which is like excellent for him, because he's just horrible putter. So, you know, I'm talking myself into Aaron Rai. I've been banging the drum on Aaron Rai for a while, kind of off and on.
Me too.
Yeah, we both have.
He's a good ball striker.
Yeah, we fall in love with the sexy ball striking numbers. You know, tee to green, he's 36 in tee to green. He's top 50 off the tee. But you know, the putting's a real liability. But at the and he's 16th in greens in regulation. The putting's really the liability. But on these slow greens, I mean, like, how bad could it be? This feels like a tournament that maybe he could win. I mean, the concern is always distance on these long courses, but. You know, I think that on this course, you know, at 55 or 45 to 1, like, I'm willing to take a little nibble on Aaron Rai. I mean, he's won in Europe, like, he's reliable.
You're always talking about how these guys have won in Europe. I mean, it's important, I know, but you're always like, that guy won in Europe.
Yeah, man,
you know,
he's a killer.
3 years ago. Yeah, that guy crushes it in Wales.
Yeah, I was betting him in the European Tour.
I like Aaron Rai. He's a great ball striker, but he's not long off the tee, and I'm really trying to avoid those guys. I got like one, maybe, but approach game too, it can be important here. I mean, Finau always has good approach game. So ball striking is important. It's just, you got to be able to hit it off the tee, and I'm just not sure Rai can do that. And also, Rai's always making me mad because I'm always touting him or betting him, and then he doesn't do anything. So even though his stats are pretty good, and his results have been okay too, he can play. He's playing fine golf. I don't know. As a guy who he's not long enough off the tee for me to really like Aaron Rai.
He's probably the one deviation from my logos, so to speak, for betting this golf tournament. He's kind of like the one weird outlier that I just sort of,
there's always one.
I just feel compelled to do it. I mean, you know, his top 10 odds are pretty good. If you don't think that, you know, I mean, his top 10 odds are plus 360. So, I mean, even if you don't think that he can close it out, like, there's still pretty good odds for a top 10 in this field. I mean, come on.
I think I'm going to be, I mean, we don't talk about top fives and top 10s a lot here, but I think I'm going to be kind of looking at that. I also just need some winners, and I get a lot of these guys are top 5, top 10s, or they're at least in that conversation. And then I'm tired of losing to Rom, so I might as well just like hit a top 10 and make my money back or something. Yeah. And Aaron Rai is definitely someone who in this field, yeah, absolutely. Like if he misses the cut, then he just played two days of horrible golf. He should be fine. And he's been playing really well. And the approach game can save you, even if it's a long course. That approach game gets you where you need to go after your drive. And as long as he's putting okay, which I don't know how his putting numbers are, he should be all right.
Not good.
But that's the thing. Yeah, not good. See, that's the problem with the long course is, okay, so you can't drive it off the course and then your putting stinks.
But he's been better lately. I mean, his last 4 tournaments, he hasn't had any just like horrible putting rounds. Most of his bad putting rounds happened sort of early in the season, like November to February. Then we sort of rounded into form in March. And by form, I just mean absolutely perfectly average for a PGA Tour player.
Rounded into form. Aaron Rai just rounded into form.
Just go from being a complete liability to just like, all right, like now we're just like, okay. Now we're like,
he'd probably tell you that. He probably goes home and is like, my form, I'm into form right now, honey.
Yeah.
I
have never putted better than just field average.
Yeah. I mean, I love that too. I always love that stuff. Like looking at that where like, I'm like, yikes, this guy's 156 in putting. And he's probably thinking, this is the best I've ever put in my entire life. I have never been a better putter than I am right now. You should have seen me at the University of Illinois. Like, you know, sometimes you forget like how good all these guys are.
Oh, absolutely.
I wish George Plimpton was still alive, and he may have actually written a book about this. You know, he wrote all those sports books, but I would love to just play golf with like someone who not like a Pat Perret who's kind of past his prime and used to be good, but just someone who's like not that good. And at least on tour, you know, is always struggling to keep their card. and just watch them just like absolutely just destroy just normal players, just guys. I think that would be a hilariously fun documentary or book. I'm sure that there are things out there like that, but I haven't read them. So, okay, Aaron Wright, what's that? 55-1,
45-1.
45-1. Would have loved 55-1.
Would have loved 55, but we'll settle for 45.
Wishful thinking. Yeah. Okay, my iron. This is one of my guys. Oh, I've been on him since the Masters, so like 3 weeks. Gary Woodland.
Okay.
Plus 2,200, 22-1, short price. Don't love it. And the numbers don't exactly back up the price either. It's just the results. Like sometimes with these algorithms, it's like, are you just playing well lately? That seems to be the only thing that kind of matters in some of this stuff. And Woodland's a guy who's been on everybody's radar because of his 14th place at the Masters and kind of the high profile grouping with Brooks on the 4th day. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why he's on everybody's tongue. But Woodland is, off the tee. This is the other thing about him. He hits the ball far. Like,
yeah, he's a bomber.
A big time. I mean, I watched him outdrive Brooks at Augusta on Sunday multiple times. So we talk along off the tee. He's 13th off the tee in strokes gained. He's 14th in total driving. And the thing about Woodland is his approach has become really good. So he's 23rd in strokes gained approach. And that's not something that his game has been known for in the past. But so he's got two things right now he's doing really well. Nate, the problem, he's 188th in putting. So
yeah, and the short game's never
that's
really
not
been
good.
A strength either. Yeah, just generally.
No, it's not. I mean, it's just I think the around the green numbers are around there too. And so, you got to be able to putt better than 188th on tour to win a golf tournament. You just have to. You don't have to putt, in the top 50. Your strokes gained, for putting can be like 96. You can sneak away with a win. But unless you're driving the green every hole and then 3 putting for a par or whatever, 2 putting for a par, then yeah, you're kind of screwed there. So, but I like Woodland. RBC tied for 31st, Mathers tied for 14th, Genesis tied for 9th. The Houston Open a while ago tied for 9th. 2 top 10s.
Yeah.
He doesn't win a lot on tour. I think he's got 1 win. I could be wrong. He might have 0.
He's got a
few.
He's won.
Yeah.
He's got a few. He's a major winner, man. He won a U.S. Open.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm thinking about someone else I have on here who has 1 win. But yeah. I don't know what I'm thinking. Yeah. Woodland won a U.S. Open. So he can close. Hey, another reason to take him. You got to have some guys who can close. You really do. This week especially, you have to have those guys. So, you got any more irons for us? You want to talk about someone else you like in this category?
I don't think so. I mean, I think moving forward, I mean, maybe my boy SH Kim. He kind of fits my profile here. I haven't seen a ton of people talking about him. He's 55-1. So, we're stretching a little bit outside of the normal iron range. But I do like my boy here. I feel like I'm the lone person on Seong-Hyun Kim all the time. But the results have been good. Tied for 13th at Zurich. Tied for 15th at Valero. So, last couple times he's teed it up, he's been good. He fits the profile more of the logos that I'm sort of like looking for, where he's long off the tee. He's basically like a bomber putter type guy. Really good putter, hits the ball really long ways. Everything else is always like sort of like not awesome. But that's the sort of style that can do well here. So I don't worry about like the approach numbers. Like I'm not as worried about here. We just talked earlier in the show about how Rahm won here with pretty average approach numbers. So bomber putter, can win here. He certainly fits that profile more than most. He's 46 in strokes gained off the tee, and he's 19th in strokes gained putting. So, and he averages 303 yards off the tee. So distance isn't going to be an issue. Any issues he does have is usually driving accuracy, which mitigated here. So I like my boy SH Kim at 55-1. I think you can do worse than that. Young up and coming player, fits the mold for the type of player that, often wins these sorts of weaker field events, younger guys that are sort of playing for secure some status, a little more status.
He stole my thunder for the wedge.
Oh,
I thought I thought nobody was going to be on him. The only person I was worried about was you. Like, I haven't seen him anywhere. And I thought Nate might take him. And for all the reasons, let me do the wedge real quick, then we'll go to yours. Then we can kind of work the live reason a little differently. So, okay, so our irons, reliable guys who won on tour before, guys with pretty short odds, but you can get kind of tricky with that. Wedge, this is someone who hasn't won on tour, or if they have, it's been a while, but you just like him. You bet him every week. You know what's going to happen at some point. That's why I like Kim in this category, because he hasn't won on tour. He's got one top 10. I think he's very young, so 24. 55-1. I thought 55-1 was a great price for him. I think you could talk yourself into 30-1 for Son Young Kim. I mean, he fits the mold. He's again tied for 13th at the Zurich. I know that's a team event, but tied for 15th at the Valero. The Valero, the course isn't a comp because it's not a resort course. So the grass is different. The climate is different, but the Valero it's a Greg Norman course, and it was a weak field. So
and it was pretty windy there. This tournament's going to be windy as well. So, if we're really just trying to shoehorn in things, I think, playing well in the wind is always a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the putting is great. I love to take guys who can putt because they're always kind of in it if they're feeling it. They can, as long as they can kind of do something off the tee in this course and then get it in the cup when they get to the green, you can live with the approach numbers, but you're going to lose some strokes off the approach numbers. But it's not that important. Like I said, Rahm's approach for last year, strokes gained, if I can navigate back to it really quickly, was plus 0.66. That's like super low. Now Finau was plus 2.04, which is probably the best in the tournament last year. But you can win the tournament without having a great approach game if you can putt and you're good off the tee. You just have to get it to the green without absolutely falling apart. But we've definitely seen our boy Son Young fall apart out there trying to find the green.
I mean, I guess we can be heartened by the fact that he gained strokes in approach last week at the Zurich, which is huge. He actually, the only weak part of his game last week was his putting, and that probably is an aberration. I'm not willing to think that he's going to, go on a cold streak putting. He's traditionally been a really strong putter. So, a little bit of a blip. So if the putting stabilizes, gets back to normal, and he's still gaining strokes on approach, I mean, you got to like him at 55-1. I'm all in. I love it.
You don't want to take too much from the Zurich. It's a team event. Their rhythm's off. You don't know, what transpired out there in order for them to either gain or lose approach. I mean, it's better if they're playing well and if they're with somebody on a team who's playing well. But a lot of times too, one of the guys carried the other guy. But Kim squared was something that Nate from We Know Fantasy took last week. He likes both the Kims as well. I'm kind of on that train this week. I think that at 55-1, this is something he's one I feel really good about. Is he going to beat Finau and Rahm? I don't know. Maybe not. But he's 24 years old. And like you said, at some point, one of these guys who's young, like Sahith, Kim, Akshay, they're going to win a tournament because they're good. They're so good. And Kim's right there. So as long as he can kind of figure out the approach, he should be okay. And this is not a course where you need to have a strong approach game. We wouldn't be talking about him if this was a ball strikers course where like the RBC in Hilton Head. This is a course where, get your strokes off the tee, get to the green, and then putt.
Yeah.
So you stole my thunder. I thought I was being real clever. I mean, I really did. I was like, SH Kim, nobody's gonna have him.
Got it.
And then you did. So whatever. Okay. Who's your wedge?
My wedge, I guess. You kind of teased him already, so I guess I'll just go with it. I like Akshay Bhatia. Yeah, it's got to be Akshay. I mean, Akshay's like my guy.
I didn't take him because I knew you would.
I mean, he's my guy in these events, right? I mean, like I've been all over him. I was like, all over him in Puerto Rico. He had a pretty good tournament there. He's kind of like a resort course. Like if you can be a specialist at resort course events, he kind of is. He was second in Puerto Rico. A resort
course guy.
He was tied for 24th at the Punta Cana. He was, top 20 in the Bermuda. basically, he's top 4 and top 7 in the 2 Corn Ferry Tour events that he played earlier in the year, in the Bahamas. Like basically all of his, like if you're on Data Golf and you're looking at like his green finishes in the last like 6 months, it's basically only resort courses. Mexico, Puerto Rico, 2 in the Bahamas, 3 in the Bahamas, 3 top 20s and like top 25. So, he's not awesome anywhere else. He's missed the cut and played horribly in his last 2 events. I mean, the RBC Heritage was just a disaster for him, short game wise. The Zurich Classic also terrible. He did gain strokes off the tee though in both of those events, and he just seems like a guy that's more comfortable playing these types of courses for whatever reason. His deficiencies tend to be his putting. But he could just tear it loose with the driver here. Guy hits the hell out of the ball. I mean, so I kind of like. I'm just gonna go with Akshay. He hits a ton of greens in regulation. The ball striking's there. The putting and short game are a disaster, but these are pretty big greens and they're pretty slow greens. So I think that some of those short game deficiencies will probably be can be covered up here, like they typically are at other courses that he's done well at.
I wish there was a strokes gained resort course stat. I mean, I want to just develop the strokes gained resort course statistic, because Akshay would be plus 5.06. I don't know why he's so good at the resort courses. Yeah, it must be the weather, or the field. Sometimes the field's a little weaker at these resort courses. Maybe it feels more like international play. Who knows? Could be a whole lot of things. But
I have no idea. I mean, he's from he's from North Carolina, I think, or something. It's not like
right.
I think he went to Wake Forest, so I don't know why he just loves these courses. For whatever reason
he went to Wake Forest.
Yeah,
who knows?
I don't know.
I mean, sometimes you just like the weather. You like the grass. I mean, it just depends. It'd be something interesting to ask him, because I imagine that we're probably the only people who have kind of identified this trend of Bhatia being just really good at these resort courses. Now, I have read, to other golf touts' credits. I mean, I've definitely read about him this week. I've seen him listed, and a lot of people point to the Punta Cana, but you were on him on the Punta Cana. I mean, it's not like
because he was really good on the Corn Ferry at resort courses.
Yeah,
he was really good in those Bahamas events in January, which felt like a close correlation to the Punta Cana. And he played great in Puerto Rico, which is another resort course. He finished second. I think Rico, a couple weeks before.
I don't think there's any reason why you can't get him at even. I mean, if you don't want the outright, I mean, I'm sure his odds for top 20 are 3-1. And it seems ridiculous that he wouldn't slide in the top 10 or the top 20 in a course like this. If he doesn't, it's because of his inexperience.
Yeah. But I mean, the form means nothing when he comes to these events. He had just, when he stacked those 2 top 10s in the Corn Ferry in Bahamas, he had finished 45th in the RSM in his previous tournament. Before he finished second in Puerto Rico, he had missed 2 cuts, and then he finished tied for 49th going into the Puerto Rico Open second. Missed the cut at Valspar the week after. T24 at Corrales. He just, I don't get it. He plays junk some places, and then he just goes to his resort courses and he just pops up. It just seems like form doesn't matter. He just misses a million cuts, then it's top 20.
Strokes gained resort courses. I'm telling you, we got to get that stat. I need PGA to just develop the strokes gained resort courses stat. We'll throw everybody on there, and you'll learn a lot.
We know Fantasy to build us a model for resort course stats. Just tell them what we want. Just build the computer model.
That would be awesome. That'd probably make us all rich.
Probably.
We'd be the strokes gained resort course guys.
Just flying once every 6 or 7 weeks. It's just we got your information. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Put it behind the paywall.
Yeah. This guy crushes in Aruba. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than seeing this guy off the coast of Spain.
You've seen him putt past Palom before? My God, it's a revelation.
I traveled to Bolivia, and this guy crushed it at a resort where you can't walk off the property. I'm telling you, it's a great idea. Maybe I'll get Nate at We Know Fantasy to run a model for us. He'd probably be all in too. So we got 2 more categories here. We got our putter, and we got our hybrid. But we want to tell you about Ignite 45 first, one of our trusty sponsors here. We love Ignacio at Ignite 45. If you're a small business owner struggling to generate leads and revenue, then this message is for you. In today's economy, a winning digital strategy is a must. Without it, your business could fall behind and lose out. Many business owners struggle with outdated websites and no real presence on Google when people are searching for their services. But do not be discouraged, as Ignite 45 can fix that. They design great websites that turn visitors into paying customers and create SEO strategies that rank your business on top of search results. Ignite 45 is also the first digital agency dedicated to helping your business reach millions on your social media platform of your choice. If you're ready to see real results and work with a digital partner that shares your values, then you got to give them a call today at 720-740-1776. That's 720-740-1776, or visit www.ignite45.com/Godzilla. That's www.ignite45.com/Godzilla. Use the promo code Godzilla to save 100 on your digital needs. Thank you, Ignacio, for all of your support. We love Ignite 45. Okay, Nate, 2 more categories to go here for a weak field that a lot of people are kind of complaining about, but I'm not, because I love these types of fields with these weird guys who offer some weird value. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah. I went so left field for my putters. So why don't you go first? And then, I mean, I don't even have stats. I fell apart. I mean, just exotic central over here. So go ahead and tell us about your guy for your putter. Now, a putter, before we do this, for people who haven't listened before, the putter is your bet and regret. That's why I got all these exotics on here, because I hate doing that. So this is your guy who you bet, and then you're immediately like, ugh. And last week I loved Nate's. I think he took Cantlay and Shoffley, which was an interesting take on it, to be like the favorites, but I hate doing it. So who's your bet and regret this week?
It's the shortest price guy on my betting card. And I just hate it now. I hate it every tout article I read, or preview I read, or person on the Golf Channel talking about, this person's been playing really well. Every time I see any of that, I just think.
Let me guess it before you say it. Hojgaard.
Yeah, 100%. I have been banging the drum on Nick Hojgaard for a month. And now every jerk in golf media is talking about how great Nick Hojgaard is, and he's 22 years old, has never won a golf tournament, and he is 30-1. He's
30-1, yeah.
But he has been playing unbelievable golf, and he fits the profile.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, they finished 32nd at the Zurich, so basically like not good, basically like last for people that made the cut. But he putted really well at the Zurich, which is sort of unusual for him, because he's like typically just sort of an average putter. All the rest of his numbers were weird, but he was also like dragging around just complete dead weight out there. I mean, so Data Golf, I've seen this making the rounds a few places and a few different things that I've read and on Twitter. Data Golf posted on Twitter and said, looking at strokes gained on all shots hit this week, the Hojgaard Olesen team was the most lopsided. Hojgaard gained 7.6 strokes on all the shots this week. Olesen lost 10.5. So I mean, he's just carrying it around. I mean, it was like going for a run with your buddy and then just being like, actually, I'm just going to strap 70 pounds on my back and try and beat you in a race.
Yep.
Like, I mean, it was just not possible to win with Thorbjorn Olesen playing so badly. So, you kind of throw that result out, but at the end of the day, he's played 7 starts worldwide. He's got 4 13s or better, a couple top 5s. He basically locked up his special exempt status for this year. This is his second start with that status. He basically locked it up on the strength of a second place at the Punta Cana. So if we're looking at course comps, he's right there. Dude is scary long off the tee. The approach game is all right. But if we're just looking at just straight up just bombers, I mean, you got to think hard about Hojgaard. I mean, his driving distance for the season. So, we're looking at guys that, pretty average, 300, 305, pretty average. All Nick Hojgaard is doing is just belting him out there at an average of 325. So dude is sending it off the tee. I think he's actually I think he doesn't have enough stats to qualify. He doesn't have enough starts on the tour to qualify for a lot of these stats, but I think that he's the longest driver on tour if he was qualified at 324. So,
which is one of the reasons that his price is short. But the other reason is because he played well last week, and we're all about recency bias.
Yeah, when he played well a couple starts ago. I mean, he just hasn't played that much. I mean, the Punta Cana was at the end of March, but he's only played 2 tournaments since then. So, just because he didn't really have any status, he's just sort of been living on these sponsors invites. So
I
hate it though.
I mean, it's just like about it.
It's like, what do you like? How did we get here?
I don't know how we got here. I have no idea. Because you were all over it, and it was like the most clever, sexiest pick ever, and now it's like everybody's like, "Oh, Hojgaard, duh." Like, what?
Yeah, don't you know? Yeah. Gone are the days of watching him and his twin brother Rasmus in Europe. Now it's like, and Rasmus used to be the good one. Now it's Nick. Nick's the good one. Rasmus is still playing in Europe. So I don't know.
Watch out when Rasmus starts to heat up. You're gonna be like,
then
listen,
I'm gonna be all over his stupid brother. Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, go get to the DP World Tour. You got to see Rasmus.
I'm basically a member of the Hojgaard family at this point. Like, I think that just start traveling with him.
Yeah, well, you're definitely not a member of the Olsen family. That's for sure.
No.
They're not inviting you to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they're strange.
Yeah.
I sent them a card at Christmas.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to know what it says in that card. So let's go ahead and I'll talk about my putters, some bet and regret stuff. I went exotics for this. I don't know why. I think I'm losing my touch. So first one, I don't even have a reason for this one. This is how bet and regret this is. I just did it for no reason. Like just because I have a problem with the round 1 exotics, like round 1 leader exotics, because I can't wait till Sunday to get some action in. I want more pressing action than like, oh my God, Sunday's so far away. That's like, just give me like into Thursday night. Maybe I just book a winner. So that's just my own problem that I probably need to talk to therapist about. But as it is, bet and regret number 1, Tony Finau, end of round 1 leader, 2-1. I mean, I've seen Finau jump out to a hot start. I know the Rahm stuff wire to wire last year, but he can't just like lead every round. And my God, I mean, I don't know what his round 1.
Can you imagine leading eight rounds in a row at the same tournament? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they'll just like, they'll just like, I don't know, they'll just cancel the tournament after Friday. Like, forget it. We'll just have Rahm play.
I actually did see odds on that. Wire to wire winner and on DraftKings is 10-1. So if you do like Rahm, just go wire to wire. Just bet wire to wire winner and just hope that it's Rahm or Finau. You're basically getting both of them.
Yeah, true. It's not a bad play, but God, wire to wire probably should be a little bit more than that. Always, that's such a hard thing to do. It should be like 50-1 just to start. So there's my note. There's my first one. My second one is a round 3 ball. So it's a round 1 3 ball. So instead of the matchups of just 1-1, it's 1-1-1. Yeah. 3 guys instead of 2. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And my God, Nate, I love it. I love it. Okay. So we got, I gotta make sure I have their first names because I only am betting one of them and I didn't write down the first name. So let me try to find them right here. We got matchups. Okay. I got some 3 ball. Okay. Let's see. I mean, I got you. This is a good one.
Yeah.
Never mind. My stupid thing won't, yeah, let me just, okay, here we go. So round 1 matchups, Putnam. So that's Andrew Putnam versus James Hahn versus Will Gordon. Now, Gordon, who's actually been kind of a sexy pick for a lot of people.
Yeah, I like Will Gordon
this week. Yeah, he's been playing well. Gordon to win this versus Putnam versus Hahn for the round 1. Plus 125. So you're still getting plus money, which a lot of times you don't in this situation. He is 6th on tour in round 1 scoring average. So you might also think about him for just your round. I don't know what his odds are there, but I bet they're pretty good. Probably 3-1, something around there. Could be more. The one reason I really like that stat is he has played a total of 6 in 2023 or the 2020 season anyway. Most guys have played about 8 or 9. So Will Gordon's playing a lot of golf. So the data set is nice. Strokes gained off the tee, he's 40th. Strokes gained total is 74. Total driving, he's 13th. So, I mean, and Andrew Putnam, I mean, he's been playing fine too. James Hahn, I'm not really worried about him. I think it's a pretty good grouping for Gordon. I think he's probably going to win that matchup just based on his round 1 scoring. And I don't care what he does on round 2 because I already won the bet. I'm on to Friday. And that's what I need is a couple Thursday winners. And I can't ever get a Thursday winner.
Yeah.
But I bet them all the time. I'm always betting round 1 leaders. I'm like the only guy who's just like a total sucker and just being like, this guy crushes Thursday. And then he like doesn't make the cut. So, but that's my bet and regret, I think, for the most part. You like any of those matchups? You take a look at them?
I took a look at him. I mean, yeah, Will Gordon's 55-1 to be a first round leader.
I mean, come on.
I mean,
that's like a terrific value for a guy who's 6th in scoring, first round scoring. No, I think Rahm is 2nd, but still.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at this, I mean, like Rahm's 3 balls against Alex Noren and Emiliano Grillo. Like,
I know you like Noren there.
I mean, minus 165 for Rahm doesn't feel like too bad against those two guys. I mean, like, I don't know.
I mean, that's basically like betting the Cubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so I mean, I guess I don't hate that. Oh, okay.
I thought you might
here's one that I like.
Noren.
Maybe plus 280 against my boy against John Rahm, because the best player in the world. I don't know. I don't know. There's not like
just one round though.
There's not like a lot here. I mean, I guess okay. Ches Reavie against Francesco Molinari and Eric Van Rooyen.
I looked at that.
I mean, maybe like plus 145. Like EVR like has sort of sucked every time that I've watched him play. He was like a guy that I was like, oh, resort course guy, and then he sucked. And like Molinari just like doesn't play like that much anymore. So I mean, at least like but Ches Reavie's like also like not been playing well. No. So
I looked at
and he's another one that like doesn't hit it very far. So like plus 145 is like kind of cool just because like I don't think either of those players are playing very well. But also like Ches Reavie's not playing well. So
no.
Maybe just stay away from these 3-ball matchups. Our analysis is not strong here.
No, I think the Will Gordon one's great. I think the
Will Gordon one is great. I think the Will Gordon one's the best one. I think that my 3-ball pick is garbage. Don't do that. Don't bet on Ches Reavie against these guys.
And what you shouldn't do is just look at this stuff and then bet them without researching it, because that's where they get you in this stuff, is where you're just like, oh, like, that looks like that's a winner, and then you just lose. So stay away from that. But there's some tournament matchups. That stuff can be kind of fun, but as we know, Nate's located in a state where they don't do stuff like that.
I get some tournament matchups. I just don't get really top 5 or top 10 markets very much in Nevada.
Yeah, which that's too bad, because some of those markets can be fun, but the matchups can be fun too. It's just if you have the ESPN app and you're free on a Thursday afternoon and you can watch the grouping, because otherwise you're just like checking the box score, seeing if your boy won, which cannot be as interesting. So, all right, we're going to talk about our hybrid. I've got just a short one for you. It's a long shot, but we'll talk about it in a minute. We got to thank our sponsor at Rosie's Gaming Emporium. Today's show is brought to you by Rosie's Gaming Emporium. Rosie's has paid out over $475 million in jackpots so far this year. Alex won 140 big ones in Dumfries, Tabitha 100K, 99K at least in Richmond, Douglas 93 in Dumfries, Robert 46 in Vinton. These guys are crushing it at Rosie's. Look, Rosie's so much fun to go up there in Virginia and play. You get a free sign-up bonus. It can be anywhere from $25 to $1,000 in free play. My dad goes to these Rosie's all the time. He's had a long relationship with these guys. He loves them so much. He gets the box. So in the summer, when the horse racing starts, he goes to New Kent, Virginia, and he gets a box. He does his show live there. Then he watches the horses race. It's just a lot of fun. It's great. So what you need to do is you go to rosiesgaming.com. That's rosiesgaming.com for Rosie's rewards and jackpots. Sign up for some free play. Gambling problem, call the Virginia hotline 1-888-532-3500. That's 1-888-532-3500. Okay. So Nate, we're almost done here. Trying to stay within a tight hour. Hybrids, long shots, guys who, if you hit lucky, if you get lucky like you would at Rosie's, maybe you'll get rich, but not likely to happen. I got a good one, I think. I might be stupid, but
you lead.
I think it's good. You want to hear? All right.
Yeah, I do.
I got my boy David Lipsky, 130-1. Results have been, it's been a roller coaster for Lipsky this year. Tied for 13th at the Zurich. I don't even know who his partner was, but played well. Tied for 36th at the Valspar, but he missed a lot of cuts in between that. I didn't even write him down. The only reason I like Lipsky is he tied for 6th last year at the Mexico Open. And what's really funny about him, so his strokes gained, he was a plus in every strokes gained except around the green. Putting was pretty good at 0.34. His approach was amazing at 2.5 or plus 2.50. And then tee to green plus 2.35. But of course, tee to green a lot of times approach or off the tee are kind of what does that. Yeah. Off the tee, he's not really like a long guy, but I just feel like, hey, 130-1, the guy played 6 here last year. Why not take a flyer on him? That's kind of my hybrid. I'm not waxing philosophical on David Lipsky, but if you're going to take a long shot, I like a guy who's played well here before and is at least at the Zurich was playing okay. So maybe we catch some luck there. That's all I got on Lipsky.
That's all.
I mean, I look up some other stuff if you want me to.
No. Yeah. All right. So if my logos is mostly bomber putters, I sort of talked about that when we were talking about SH Kim, bomber putter. This is like the ultimate bomber putter. I mean, this guy misses a billion cuts a season.
Yeah.
But every once in a while he pops up, and he actually had a pretty decent tournament at the Zurich. And he had a pretty decent tournament at the Punta Cana. He was top 25. A lot of missed cuts in between. Other good results. But I guess, I mean, and I've seen his name a little bit. 180-1, Martin Trainer. That's it. I mean, that's just it. If you haven't heard of him, that's probably fine. You're not missing out on much. But he's really long off the tee. He's a really good putter. Everything else about his game is not very good. It seems like this is the kind of course. He had a win in Puerto Rico a few years ago where it was basically the same thing. It was like miscut, miscut, miscut. Boom, Puerto Rico Open win. Miscut, 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 miscut. He doesn't really have much status right now. So he's sort of just been, he played, but he feels like a resort course guy. I mean, the win at, the win at Puerto Rico felt good. And, Punta Cana is a good comp. And he was top 25 there. So I'm willing to take a little flyer, a little pizza money on just Martin Trainer at 180-1. I think you could do worse than that. Hits it a long ways, putts well.
I think you can too. So we'll see. And these long shots in a field that's this week, you're really stretching. Then you start looking at their stats, kind of difficult there to see. So you got anything else for us as far as picks go? Anything you want to throw in there? We covered a lot of ground this week.
We did. No, I think that's just where I'm at for this. A lot of long shots. I would encourage most people to not really play around too much at the top of this board and really just sort of put some long shots together and hope for something weird to happen, because I just don't think there's any value otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of Clubhouse Picks, brought to you by Godzilla Wins. You can download and listen to Clubhouse Picks on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Please be sure to download, rate, and review if you like the show. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and drop a comment with your picks for the Mexico Open. We will see you next week, Nate, for, do you know?
The Wells Fargo Championship. I got it this time. Boom.
That's right.
Charlotte.
That's the big, what's the
Quail
course
Hollow.
there too?
Quail Hollow.
Yeah, Quail Hollow. Yeah, right. So that's going to be really exciting. And we're going to have a guest on that show. We'll put that on social media here pretty soon. Should be a lot of fun. We will see you next week, and happy golfing.